It's pretty great interviews with Chris and W. You do your homework so hardcore. It's like always, and it's always like the best. No, and they come into the theater being like, oh my God, she was so weird. Like, you ask about the deep cuts. Like, it means a lot. You ask about the deep cuts. Like, it means a lot. Ready?
Hamilton opens in 2 days. And to say that this is the most anticipated show on Broadway in a long time is an understatement. How are you feeling?
Great.
Guys, this is Phillipa Soo from Hamilton, Mrs. Hamilton herself.
Hi.
Renee Elise Goldsberry, congratulations on your Tony nomination, on Hamilton, and on being just an amazing human being.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okierete Onaodowan,
Yeah.
otherwise known as the Incredible Oak,
Yes.
Oak Smash.
Yes.
What do you prefer to be called?
Whatever you can pronounce properly. That's what I prefer to be called.
Is it true that as a kid they called you Oak Tree?
Yeah, as a kid they did call me Oak Tree when I was in like middle school and high school, and then they shortened that even further. They're like, Oak Tree is way too hard. What about Oak?
And now you are on Broadway in the biggest show in the world.
Yeah.
In Hamilton, playing Hercules Mulligan and James Madison.
Yeah.
David Diggs, you are a rapper, you are an actor, you are a poet, you are an activist, you are Oaklandish, you are a Tony Awards nominee. Leslie Odom Jr., congratulations. I could not be happier for you. Lin-Manuel Miranda, you are the man of the moment, the man of the hour, the man of the year. Congratulations on Hamilton.
Thank you.
Do people call you Eliza? People
Sometimes
yell it
they
out on the
do.
street?
Yeah, I'll be like, going, with my coffee on my way into work, and someone will be like, Eliza, and I'll be like, oh, hi, yes, that is me.
What's the process of going from the big, strong Hercules Mulligan to the small, sickly James Madison?
A lot of the process happened during the rehearsal process when we were creating it. And I know for me, in my head, I create these people, and this is what they look like. So in terms of Hercules Mulligan, I saw this very big, loud, verbose, fun-loving, prankster kind of guy. And then when I read James Madison, because it's separate, I saw this quiet in the back, slightly always annoyed person. So then I would just kind of, in my mind, I will be that. So that helps me in terms of my physicality, because I don't see my physicality when I read the characters, when I create the characters. I don't think of literally myself. I just think of them.
How much of George Washington, for you on a day-to-day basis, is a character that you're playing on stage, and how much is a historical figure that you have to pay homage to, and how do those two things intersect?
When I was preparing for the role, I had my nose in a book constantly. Mr. Chernow has written one of the really like the best biography that I've ever read about anyone.
And he's
but
the
he
one
won
who
the
wrote the
Pulitzer
Hamilton
for George
book.
Washington, yes. And prior to the Hamilton book, he had written the biography on George Washington.
Oh, that one's not available at the merch booth.
Well, I'm trying to work that out.
Yeah,
See,
can you
they're
pull some
kind of
strings?
Hamilton-centric at the theater right now, but we're trying to get the G-Dub merch up there. He was a great source of information. I went to Mount Vernon. I took another tour of the house down there, and really tried to get a sense of how the man lived when he was able to be there. He spent most of his time, most of his life away from Mount Vernon, but it's where he always wanted to go, and I wanted to know why he was so desperate to spend all of his, to get back there.
I actually wondered whether people have expected you to become an expert, a scholar on Eliza Schuyler Hamilton.
We can piece together a lot, but because of these letters, we don't know too much about her, but we know a lot about what other people thought about her. And from what they gathered, she was just the most wonderful, charming, loving, dedicated wife.
Everyone I know knows the moment and will say, Hercules Mulligan, I can only imagine that gets yelled at you on the street on a daily, if not hourly basis.
Not an hourly basis. Depending on where I am, the closer I am to the theater, the more it happens. But it's really cool. I have a secret fantasy to have that be like audience participation. I want every night, I want the audience to scream out Hercules Mulligan during Yorktown, and then that's it. Like, no one talks about it. It's just like a thing that happens. We all scream it, and then like the show continues. But yeah, it's fun because it's just all love. It's really great to get love from everyone, and it's all coming from a place of people being really affected and moved by the piece. And no matter how annoying or tired I may be, at the end of the day, I can't get that annoyed with someone wanting to show love. It's always good.
I've known Lin for 10 years. That's why I'm in Hamilton. If I had auditioned for Hamilton, I would not be in Hamilton, right? If I had to go up and sing 16 bars of a show tune for Alex Lacamoire, no.
I'm so tempted to ask you to sing 16 bars.
I don't even know 16 bars of a show tune. I literally couldn't do it. I've never auditioned for a musical in my life. I don't know a show tune.
I know that you and the two actresses who play your sisters in the show have an especially significant bond.
We do. We actually, all three of us don't have sisters. I think Jasmine's the only child, and I have a brother, and Renee has a brother. So we kind of have become each other's sisters in this process, and it's been a lot of fun. I mean, we haven't had any fights yet. It's really wonderful. And we have this amazing dressing room situation where it's my dressing room and Jasmine's and Renee's in this little suite, and it kind of feels like our dorm room sorority or something like that. It's really fun.
So Satisfied is the second half of this sort of mirror image double number. First is Helpless, which Phillipa Soo sings beautifully. And that's like her side of the story. And then there's Satisfied, which is Angelica's side of the story. And I've spent a lot of time listening to it, and I've gotten to see the show and watch. I like to watch you during Helpless, and I like to watch her during Satisfied.
That's so great.
And I'm curious about how you act the same moment differently in Helpless and in Satisfied, because you have to be, it's the same moment, but there are little differences that you bring.
Yes, so that's really a great question because it could be played different ways. So what we have is this moment where Eliza and Hamilton and Angelica all meet, and it leads us right into this wedding, and then a toast after the wedding, and we see it twice because we see it from Eliza's perspective the first time in the song Helpless, and then we see it from Angelica's perspective in Satisfied. And as an actor, with our Tommy Kail, our director, we had the choice of playing the scene so that I'm always playing it even when it's her song from my perspective. Or we have the choice of just playing it from her perspective when it's her turn.
Like her generous sister introducing her.
So I'm really playing it as though, anyone ever watch that show, Good Times? Yeah, okay. They used to have episodes every season or so where they would do the same event from every different lead character's perspective. And all the actors would really be what the person whose perspective it was thought, And I kind of think that's what we're doing. I'm not sitting around thinking, I'm in love with you, I want you right now. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give you to my sister. I'm not really thinking that when I'm playing Helpless scene. It's always gonna be there because clearly even from Eliza's perspective, her sister, wants to share Alexander. That's a quote in this show.
And that's from a real letter.
That's from a real
Angelica
letter.
Schuyler
So
wrote.
clearly Eliza is aware and Angelica isn't hiding the fact that she thinks this man is amazing. So I don't have to hide that, but I definitely am doing it from the perspective of Eliza the first time. And I would imagine Pippa is doing that as well. One thing we do though, and Lin is involved in this as well, if a line comes out a certain way, when I say, I'm about to change your life is a line that I say to Alexander Hamilton. If I say it a certain way in Helpless, I'm going to try to say it the same way in Satisfied. If you watch the show, that's what I'm going to try to do. But my intention will be purely from Eliza's perspective in Helpless and from my perspective in Satisfied.
Well, it reads, and I'm very impressed with little actor moments like that.
Awesome.
I know that this is practically impossible, but if you could sum up your experience with Hamilton in 1 or 2 sentences, how would you do it?
I don't have a sentence for it. I have this. That's what it's felt like for the past year and a half.
If you had to sum up the Hamilton experience in 1 or 2 sentences, how would you do it?
It's just the most exciting, wonderful, challenging, beautiful experience of my professional life. And it may always be, and that's okay. It feels like it's in a bottle right now. This thing is gonna exist all on its own in my life, and that's fine with me.
Let's talk about this week's news, the Tony nominations.
Word.
You are nominated as Best Featured Actor in a Musical. What does it mean to you to be a Tony nominee?
It is the craziest thing. I think I don't really know what to make of it. Is the honest truth of it. I'm so honored. It's it was not a thing I was looking for. It was not a thing that it's not a. It wasn't. I wasn't gunning for this Tony nomination. It wasn't. I didn't grow up sort of hoping to one day win a Tony.
You earned it. You deserve it.
I guess.
I'm gonna call you out a little bit on saying you weren't going for it, because in 2012 you released a music video for a song called "Fresh Out of the Hood,"
Woo.
and there is a lyric in there.
Oh yeah. Right. And they want to say that the bottoms is the bottom, but I'm calling it the top. If they feel me, then I got them on that Morrison music for this Tony I'm pursuing. Act a fool for your amusement, and you don't know why I do it. I do it for my town. Yeah, that was
You were pursuing a Tony back then.
Man, that line to me was absolutely about pursuing Toni Morrison's greatness as a writer, and it was a way.
But in the lyrics, it's spelled with a Y, and Toni Morrison's name.
Who
is
wrote
spelled
those
with
lyrics
an
down? I didn't write those
I
lyrics
don't know.
down. That's rap genius. Y'all got to take that up with them. You really did your research.
I heard Oscar Eustis compare Lin-Manuel Miranda to Shakespeare, which I felt bad for Lin when he was doing that, because that would be, for somebody so young to have to live up to that. But I 100% agree with him in terms of what he's doing, and I think also the scope of what he will be able to do with his voice. I think it's actually a really apt comparison. And I definitely think that Shakespearean actors and hip-hop artists have a lot in common, and I'm glad that the world is getting to see that by the success of this play.
One of your hobbies is beatboxing.
Totally. Well, it really gets your articulators going, I guess. So it's nice to throw in a couple beatbox, as you're going down the stairs to get ready for places. I think David, I'll follow him down the stairs sometimes, and I'll just hear him beatboxing. I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll do the same. That'll be really good to warm up.
You want to give us a little taste of it?
Do you guys want to hear me beatbox?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't practiced yet today. I don't practice every day, really. Okay, ready?
Yeah, that was amazing.
Thanks.
Hamilton is doing a lot to bring this show, which is, as everyone knows, it's impossible to get a ticket, yet through grants, through the activism and the impetus of the cast and the creative team and the producers, 20,000 school kids are going to get to see this show for $10.
Yeah. It's actually my favorite thing about the show. It actually is. And sorry, not sorry that you can't get in to see those student matinees, because the energy is the craziest thing I have ever experienced before. And so we had our first one, and I was sick. I was sick as a dog. I was throwing up, and I woke up vomiting, which is a weird thing. I don't know, I had woke up with a stomach virus, and called Tommy Kail, our director, and said, I can't come today. I'm sorry. And the kids were gonna be there at 10 a.m. performing there. So there's a whole curriculum, there's a whole Hamilton curriculum that has been distributed to the schools who are coming as part of this initiative. And representatives from each school were selected to perform their final projects from this curriculum on our stage. And I wanted to be there so bad, and I was just sick and lying in bed, and I was like, well, I could either be sick here or sick watching these kids. So I got up, I called a Lyft, and I took my ass to the theater, and I was so inspired by those kids that I did both shows that day. Actually walking off stage and vomiting in between things. But after seeing the sort of bravery and like the heart that those kids put into their performances and getting up on a Broadway stage as a high schooler in front of 1,300 other high schoolers, kids you don't know, can you imagine as a child? And performing things that they wrote themselves, that are based in history, that are incorporating their own stories and using their own voices, and choreography and music and beatboxing and rapping and all of this stuff. And I was like, oh, you're not gonna go on stage because you feel a little sick? You get your ass, you know? So it was, it was such I'm so happy I went, and it was the best reminder for really why you do this.
I'm obsessed with the idea that you almost did an audition for Hamilton, just thinking about it.
What would happen? Yeah. What would have
what
happened
would this
to
show
my
look
life?
like?
I would be sitting there watching another girl. I would be a fan. I would be sitting right there, like that really cute girl right there, and I'd be like, oh my God, she's right there, because I would love the show. That's how I felt about In the Heights. This is beautiful. It's a beautiful show, and I can't believe I get to do it. And I'm a super fan of Hamilton. I'm just in it. What is this world? I'm in it, so I get all these like backstage moments, and I get to be friends with all these people. It's crazy. It's crazy, but I would be a super fan because I think this show is amazing.
Since the moment we opened, the excitement has been so crazy. It's been that thing where you know, the thing you can't buy is people leaving and going, you have to see the show. And that's sort of what's been happening to us, even when we were 3 hours and we were still way too long, and there were whole moments I cut between Off-Broadway and Broadway. The excitement around the show has totally gobsmacked me and taken me by surprise.
Are you going to survive it?
Am I going to survive it?
So much.
I don't know. That's a question. You know, that's a great question. I don't know. I hope to.
I hope you do.
Please do. Yeah, we're working hard, and I'm working hard to rest as well. I know it doesn't seem like it. You'd be amazed at how much I say no to, so I can just go home and be with my family. Okay.
You just seem to have high energy all the time. I would love to know how you do that.
I feel like, well, I love to enjoy my city, New York City. It's like the best place to kind of fill the well. There's just so much art and culture. I love to ride my bike through the city. I feel like it's really like freeing and empowering, but also really dangerous.
Wear your helmet.
But it's fun. And I love to like eat and experience food culture and food life, and I love to go and listen to music, and I just feel like that's such a huge part of like my energy is like getting it from the city around me. And then there's also the other side, which is just sleeping and making sure you stay in and watch your favorite television series for one day, you know, just to kind of like find your inner peace.
Speaking of being in the room where it happened, I have goosebumps just leading up to this question. I had the honor of attending Hamilton the same day as the President of the United States. And I have never experienced energy in a theater like that, and I was on the audience side. What was it like for you and the cast and the crew, and to know that this president at this moment in history was seeing this show? Is there any way to verbalize what it was like?
Since that day, I've been asked this question, you know, numerous times. I still am trying to figure out the best way to describe it. When we were doing In the Heights in 2007, I had a poster in my dressing room of President Obama, then Senator Obama. And it was a very special moment for me, obviously, as an African-American man, to see him elected to the office. To have him come to our show at the end of the first week of previews was just there's not a lot of time to work up to that kind of expectation. So to have that happen was pretty spectacular. Once we knew it was going to happen, it was a little more nerve-wracking on coming into the theater. You know, I'm not accustomed to passing by the Secret Service.
Oh my gosh, I know. I had my ID
during the
checked
show
like 14 times between getting off the subway and actually getting to my seat.
Yeah, it was pretty intense, but for obvious reasons. To be able to meet him at intermission.
Did you know that was going to happen in advance?
Well, no, we weren't under the impression that we were going to be able to actually meet him. They brought the curtain down. We were able to take a picture with he and his daughters and some of the other people that he was traveling with. It was just a great honor. The office is the office, you know, and the man is the man. And maybe 10 years from now, I'll find a better way to articulate it. But suffice it to say, it was just an incredibly special day, and one that I had hoped would happen, from the day that he was elected. So it was, for me, it was it was a highlight.
I know that this is an especially busy week for you because you didn't get your day off on Monday.
We did not get a day off on
Something special
Monday.
happened at Hamilton.
Yes, the DNC came, and also the president came and spoke after the show, and that was very, very special and very moving.
So President Obama came to see Hamilton for the second time. He invited the whole Democratic National Convention or committee, I guess. And did you get to spend any time with him? Did the cast get? I know you took a picture with him when he came the first time.
Right. We didn't really get to spend much time with him this second time around. We did get to greet him afterwards and take a picture with him, which was great. But just listening to him speak was just such a gift, because clearly the show spoke to him in a way that he felt it was necessary to share and make a prominent moment to acknowledge how important it was to him. And we're just so grateful. I mean, like, we were all just like kind of starry-eyed at the fact that he was there, and we still are. I mean, he's such a great man, but really, really grateful that he was there.
There's no doubt in my mind that you are a superhero. And every superhero has an origin story.
Yeah.
I want to know if you had to go back to a singular moment or a singular person who made you know that the theater was your home, your superhero origin story. Who is that, or what is that moment?
Oh, it's probably the 6th grade play. I've talked about this before. And, for my elementary school always culminated in the 6th grade play. The 6th graders were the oldest in the grade, and they would put on the school show, and the whole school would watch. So since I was 6, 7 years old, I remember thinking, what's the 6th grade play going to be by the time we're in 6th grade? So I remember seeing it 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, hoping, God, I hope we get a good show for our 6th grade play. That kind of anticipation for a musical is pretty nuts. Your entire scholastic childhood. And then what we ended up doing for my 6th grade play was 20-minute versions of the previous 6 years, a greatest hits show. It was 4 hours long, our poor parents. But the cast list went up, and I got to play a son in Oklahoma, a son in Fiddler on the Roof, a cowhand in Oklahoma, an Adapro backup in The Wiz, and Conrad Birdie, Captain Hook, and Bernardo in West Side Story. That's a lethal dosage of musical theater at age 12. And I remember being Conrad Birdie. My grandmother made my gold lame jacket, and all the girls in the grade had to faint when I sang. And I said, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. I think that experience, and our incredible music teacher, Miss Ames, who we made a Pam for Ham for earlier this year, her being so present in our lives and our daily scholastic lives, I think made a huge impact on me.
Okay, if we consider this your superhero moment,
Okay.
what is your origin story? How did the theater bug bite you?
There was a dormant superpower inside of me that I didn't know about. And then when I saw that original cast of Rent, when I saw those superheroes, it helped me find my own superpower. That'd be my origin story.
I'm actually kind of obsessed with the intersection between fear and the adrenaline it takes to put on a show. So I'm always curious how a performer, whether someone like you experiences stage fright.
I live with it every single day. Even now, Lin-Manuel Miranda, just in case you didn't know who I was talking about.
I think we've heard of him.
Just in case you didn't see the Rolling Stone cover. He used to say all the time, because he's like such a cheerleader, like in our prayer before the show, he'd be like, come on, we gotta make it every night, you guys, right before we walk out there. So I'm always, there's a little cut above the stairs if you've seen the show, there's an area, there's a high banister, and right behind it I come out a lot, and I'm always behind that little thing, saying a prayer. You know what I mean? Just, like, okay, God, here we go, let's do it again, Actually, there's a line there's a moment during the scene with Aaron Burr, Alexander Hamilton, and George Washington when when George Washington meets Alexander Hamilton for the first time. There's this scene where he says, "I'm in dire need of assistance." That's what George Washington finally says when he meets Alexander Hamilton. And I'm hearing that, and I'm backstage, and I'm always thinking, I'm in dire need of assistance. I'm thinking that all the time. Every time I hear it, I'm like, I'm in dire need of assistance.
It seems like Washington might not have been the man that he was if it wasn't for Hamilton.
I was just saying this to a friend of mine. I don't think that either of the men would have found not the success, but the results that they were able to achieve without each other's help. And
Well, I'm glad they found each other.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Not only for
the
the
show
sake
wouldn't
of our
have been any
country,
interest-
but for
nearly
the
as
sake of
interesting.
the American musical theater.
That's right,
I'm glad
that's
that
right.
they found each other.
That's right.
Hamilton's history, like the way that the show ends, and the way his life ends, is not. It's not a spoiler alert because everybody kind of knows going in.
Right.
As my dad likes to say, nobody sees Romeo and Juliet to find out how it ends. And
Right.
the same is true for Hamilton. But I feel like there's been a lot of speculation about the very last moment of the show. You step to the front of the stage and you take a deep breath, like a gasp. Can you talk about that moment and what's going on there?
Yeah, it kind of, it didn't always exist. I mean, the cue always existed. Like I stepped forward and looked out and then lights out. But now, I mean, it kind of always changes. And the beautiful thing about it is that it's always, to me, it's always, the moment always belongs to all of us in the entire room. It's a culmination of the entire experience that we just had as the audience, as the cast, as the characters. And I mean, sometimes, you know, people are like, is it Eliza going into heaven? Is she seeing Alexander? Is she, you know, is she seeing God? What is it? And it's kind of all of those things. Sometimes it's literally, I look out and I see the audience, and that's what it is. But I think that idea of transcendence is present in all of that. Whether it's, you know, in Eliza's mind or in Phillipa's mind, they're both one and the same, which is beautiful about that moment.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit and ask you about your mismatched socks.
I always wear mismatched socks.
I love that about you. Why?
I don't know. When I was a kid, my older sister, she's a lawyer now, and she would hate that I'm telling this story, but she's not here. But she would always wore mismatched socks, and that's honestly where it came from. And actually, when I was a kid in middle school, I would wear mismatched shoes. My mother would kill me if she found out, but I'd hide one pair of shoes in my book bag, and on the bus I'd change shoes. But it's kind of always been just a thing that I do, that now it's second nature. I don't even think. If I wear matching socks, it's weird to me, and it feels very uncomfortable.
I spent about 10 years of my life wearing mismatched socks too, so it just makes me feel
Why
a
did
little
you
more kindred.
Why'd you stop?
Well, tights, it's hard to do mismatched tights.
Fair.
It would require a lot of sewing, which I don't.
It's not false.
Which I don't do.
Let's turn it over to the audience for some questions.
Brother Diggs, thanks for joining us today. You certainly have an intriguing story, so I was curious to know if you'd be willing to share with us any struggle that you may have encountered.
We grew up very, very poor, but I wasn't sad. I've said this before. I grew up poor. I didn't grow up sad. My parents were not together, but I had a very involved mother and father who both I was the happiest person. I felt like I had everything, and I was sort of surrounded by love all the time. So I never wanted for anything, you know? And I think those experiences, like even through hard times, being able to, even at the hardest times when we don't have any money and like food is scarce, but we can tell jokes, you know, you can laugh your way through things, you can go out and play with your kids in the sun. I mean, that's the most incredible thing that my father ever did was always played with me, always, right? Whatever I wanted to do in the morning, if he was around, like that's what we were doing. So it was like, I want to go on a hike. So we went and climbed up a mountain. Like that's the kind of things we did. And having that is what makes those hard times, I think, not so hard, because you realize that that's just struggle. But your life doesn't have to be sad. I've very rarely been sad in any sort of deep way for a long time. And I've also never been bored in my life, as far as I can remember. Like, boredom has never existed for me. Like, my downtime is great. I write a song or whatever. Like, I don't have a job, okay. Awesome, I don't have to go anywhere today. That shit's dope.
I'm just wondering, what's your favorite song to perform?
I'd say perform. I can Wait For It because I'm singing background vocals. I love Wait For It because I love listening to the song. I love listening when Leslie just murders that song. He's a freak. He's remarkable. And still to this day, it's like I just love that song so much that I just love to sit in the back, sing the background vocals, and just listen to it.
Is there anything else you want to add about the Tony Awards or the season?
I mean, the thing that I'm most thankful for really is that I get to share this with so many of my castmates, because we have leaned on each other and depended on each other for strength and inspiration, you know, throughout this whole time. So the fact that I get to stand shoulder to shoulder with Renee and Phillipa and David, and it's just, that's the most special thing for me.
I'm such a big fan of yours, as is everyone in this world. Everyone in this world, everyone in this room, everyone in this world. And I just want to thank you so much for coming. Thank you, sweetheart.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I could talk to you for a million years, but you got to go spend time with your son and rest. And
I'm gonna try.
And you've got some shows to do, but I love you. Everybody loves you.
Love you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Whenever I have to do my check, I go, this is
the microphone. This is my tube!
All right, are we rolling? All right. Ready?
Ready?